Should we start? Okay. Welcome to the Village of Cottage Grove Plan Commission on Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. This meeting is being held virtually on Zoom and also in person at Village Hall, and the link to the Zoom is at the top of the agenda. It is 6:30, so I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted, so we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this is the public's appearances, public's opportunity to speak. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. We'll start with individuals in the room that like to give comments and then move to individuals on Zoom. Is anyone in the room that would like to give public comment? No. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to give public comment?
I'm seeing no hands.
Okay. So we'll move to number 5, discuss and consider the minutes from the Plan Commission meeting way back on August 13th, 2025. And those meeting minutes are linked in the agenda as a PDF.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
There's a motion by Alex and a second by JP. Any discussion or comments on the meeting minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. So we have first up tonight a concept presentation by Newman Homes for a potential single-family residential development. Invite you up. Please use the microphone and click the little guy on there so that it turns red and so that we can hear you and the individuals on Zoom can hear you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Steve DeClean. I'm the president of Newman Companies. This is my associate, Brian Lindgren. Brian's the president of our land development company. And over there is Ryan Fritsch, who's the project manager who works with us to develop real estate. So we're thrilled to be here. I can tell you that we've met with Aaron and Matt and Josh over the years on a couple projects in Cottage Grove that we've been that we've looked into. Always had really positive meetings. Have really worked for a long time to try to find the right parcel in Cottage Grove. Think it's a great place to live with, a great quality of life, and we're a little bit in love with this one that's in front of you. So we've got a contract to purchase 120 acres. That's just to the south and the east of Quarry Ridge, and your comp plan sort of felt right on point with what we were planning to do and what we like to do. We've mapped out a subdivision of a combination of some 70-foot wide lots and some 85-foot wide lots. So we've got a little different product types in the community. It's 249 lots on 120 acres, which is well within the range in the comp plan. Kind of seeing home values, hopefully in the from 500 to 600,000 is sort of our expectation of what that looks like, which is, I think there's a great spot in the market today for that sort of a sweet spot. We're sort of the star of the show is a huge park that we're going to give to Sean, kind of right in the middle of it, seeing a need for larger park space. I think soccer fields or baseball fields, kind of large movement areas. I think that kind of dominates the subdivision. I think the word park is probably in the name of this subdivision somewhere. Left some points of entry at either side in case we want to run traffic through that park. That's going to be up to the Parks Department to program. We've got stormwater in the south and stormwater in the north. As you can see, Mike Hawkins from Snyder put this together. Believes it's a very doable plan. I should say that we have not, there's still corn out there, so we've not done physical diligence yet. So there's some test pits and some borings that we have to do yet. But based on the current grades, he thinks we've got adequate room for stormwater, and he thinks it's doable. So we're super excited about it. One other feature here is in our neighborhoods, when we have over 100 lots, we love to do an HOA owned and managed pool. So if you're looking in the corner of that park, that one, we're not giving that one to Sean. That's an HOA pool. He doesn't want it either, by the way. So that's an HOA pool. So that's kind of part of the neighborhood. Sort of gives a neighborhood a little bit of a rallying cry, fun place for kids, get them off their phones, that sort of thing. So we're here really looking for feedback, like your thoughts on it. and get any kind of reactions you have. We've got sort of a short window to make a decision on this. We don't have a long extended diligence period, so your feedback is important.
Aaron, anything to add?
No, I think they covered it well. It does, as they said, meet our comp plan. We are looking for single family out there, and the mix of lot sizes is good. Obviously, like the park, Sean was part of our initial meetings with these guys, and that's what Sean was looking for. So I'll let Josh touch on the utilities a little bit, as far as needing a lift station and that sort of thing.
Yeah, certainly kind of on the utility side, we've discussed this a little bit with them.
Is your mic on?
Sean and I will share. So we've discussed the utility side better with them a little bit, and there is some constraints in the site where it drops away from where current gravity sewer can go. So, you know, if you look at North Lawn Drive and kind of extend out there into kind of that lot where the park is, some of that can be served by gravity likely. Same with School and Molly up in the Quarry Ridge development. A little of that might be able to serve by gravity, but then it kind of starts to fall off. And what does that mean? It means that there's probably going to be some sort of a lift station on site that forces it back to one of these roads and into the gravity sewer. Now that would be a temporary lift station, because we all know that on this side, on the east side, there's a larger lift station planned at some point someday. So the idea would be able to take that offline in the future as it got extended north. So kind of plan for the future, but, you know, build for today, I would say. And I think it's very, very doable on this site. I'm sure Mike agrees, Calkins, as part of this overall development. Another thing we kind of talked about was connections on roads and how you would connect this. Obviously, you see all the connections back to the existing roadways to the west, but there's also some future connections where we're providing space out to the east and then also to the south, just to kind of plan ahead on how other things may develop, and a connection to Meyer Road too as well, to be able to use it as another access point into this this development. So those are some things we talked about, you know, at our meeting. If there's any questions, I could try to answer some of those.
Open it up to commission members.
I was just going to add a little about the timeline
Yeah,
before
no.
we get into questions here. As Steve mentioned, the property's been on sale for, I think, over a year. We've had a few contacts over the years, but this is the first group that's come forward with a concept plan. So this is the first time we're looking at it here at the Plan Commission. Assuming they want to go forward, the next step would probably be a pre-annexation agreement. That's something that would get approved by the village board, just kind of laying out expectations for various public improvements and things like that. They would submit an annexation petition to the village and Department of Administration. Department of Administration has a 30-day review period. After that, the village can act on the annexation. As far as platting and zoning, platting is a two-step process with a preliminary plat, final plat. So those would happen, could be as soon as 2 consecutive meetings if all the drawings and things are ready to go. But few month process moving forward, at least here.
And I think if I can, I'll just piggyback on something Aaron said. We would be new, obviously, to Cottage Grove, but we're not new to the market. We're not a new entity. We operate primarily in southeast Wisconsin and have been branching our developments out into Jefferson County, Sheboygan County, all over the place. Our home building entity is called Harbor Homes, so I'd encourage you, if you get a chance, check out Harbor Homes, Wisconsin. So we build about 400 houses in the southeast Wisconsin market. So on a subdivision like this, when we kind of started talking to Aaron and others about it, you know, this was really appealing. It's residential. It's right in, you know, it hits our bread and butter of the home style we like to provide to the market. Something that's simple. The process is defined. It's a great looking product in a well-planned neighborhood and a great community. So we think that this fits us very well, and we'd love to be a part of it here in Cottage Grove. So. Something like this where we've got 249 homes planned, we'd look to phase it just to kind of get that out there right away. We don't come in and build it all at once. We'd probably be about 6 phases of infrastructure development would be my estimate. About 40 to 50 lots a year of infrastructure, followed by our home building entity, 30 to 40 homes a year. So about an 8-year-ish build out. So estimate based on kind of home sales prices, it's probably $125 to $130 million of increment within the next decade. So we're excited about it.
And then in terms of timeline, you'll be back at the village board on Monday. Because I know we have some additional questions from board members that have already kind of come up. So I just want to make sure that you'll be present for that meeting too. Okay. I'll open it up to commission members for questions. Go ahead, Alex. Alex always goes first.
I don't have to, but thank you. I appreciate that. I don't have a lot of, it looks really great. No, just a couple of questions, simple questions, I guess. So the park looks great. I think that obviously, as you mentioned, that whole region seems to be, well suited for something large like that. So just for consideration, parking is going to need to be there because there's going to be other people from other neighborhoods coming in. And then with that parking, theoretically in the green space, probably some of the planning is going to have to be, landscaping buffers from the houses to those parkings, right? So we don't necessarily see other people's cars and things like that. So as you're doing your planning, think through that, I guess. The private pool, that did catch my eye, or the pool area. You mentioned private pool use, HOA. So is it your concept that it's only this development? Is it an opt-in HOA, or is it everyone's in?
Yeah, every homeowner would be part of the HOA.
Okay.
We've done them in most of our neighborhoods that are above a certain size in southeast Wisconsin. We've found them to be very popular. Every homeowner gets a keypad, key code, so the entrance is restricted to just owners.
Is there anything else covered through the HOA, or is it just that rec area?
Whatever common area maintenance, so there's usually a little landscaping. Now we're used to cluster box, mailbox type setups, so they take responsibility for making sure those areas are clear, things like that. The bulk of an HOA would be the pool in this case.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, different developments, different things. Where I'm at, it's individual mailboxes per house, so there's really not any need for a lot of that other stuff. The roads are going to be dedicated, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a property or a house still at that end, the cul-de-sac of Meyer. Like, so what happens with all that?
Yeah, interesting, right? So the plan right now is, because they are a town resident, to keep them connected to the town would be to allow the stormwater portion of the development to remain in the town. So that would keep them,
So they would not get annexed in. So that's they would shoestring into the town. So we just need to make sure we see that. We have this in a couple other places in the village, and it's doable, but has challenge, not ideal. Yeah, and so, I mean, I think because you wouldn't necessarily connect them to water and sewer if they were in the town. However, we've brought things into the village without immediately connecting them as a requirement. We've graced them. Something to think about, how we deal with that parcel. I guess it's more Aaron's issue. Good job, Aaron. Thank you.
I have a follow-up on that then. So we'd have some kind of stormwater maintenance agreement with the town that would require some extra negotiation, or?
It could be a village-owned parcel that is in the town,
That makes sense.
most likely how
Yep.
it would unfold.
And I had a couple things also. I'm also chair of the Parks Committee, so,
sounds like we're coming to see you next week.
All right, great. I look forward to it. As you know, the neighborhood that's existing, that's being built out now, they didn't have a park dedicated to them, approved before I was on the board, because I don't know if I would have liked that too much. But so I'm thinking about access to the larger park, because it's fairly close to our existing neighborhood park. So the other green spaces between, do you envision like some kind of bike path connectivity through, so you don't have to walk the whole block to get?
That's the idea behind those areas. It's just as a pedestrian bike, access, cross block. Kid can take the bike to it.
Yeah, that's.
And just as we're talking about the park, we were gonna, as soon as the crops are off, we'll do some more soil testing, there's a chance we've been, in the north portion that the bedrock might be really shallow, where then we'd kind of flip this plan a little bit and move the park towards the north end. So we'll dial that in a little bit closer. What we're hoping here to have the overall conversation about the need for residential, the overall design, and we're fully committed to the park. It's just the location may shift a little bit as we evolve.
Sure, yeah, and if it moves farther to the north, like that whole quadrant is a little bit underserved by public parkland. So I think having access to this large park could really be a great benefit. But yeah, the downside is then it's a little farther away from, the farther reaches of the neighborhood. So, but it gives us so much flexibility to utilize the space too. But yeah, and like those access points, do you have, maybe you don't know this until you start doing soil testing, but an idea of what direction the phasing would occur?
The park would be in the first phase. Yeah. The things that are bordering Quarry Ridge are generally all gravity flow, and we want the park online as much as you do, so.
Sure, yeah, it's very desirable to want to live, near a park, so. And then the other question I had is about traffic impact, and I know that'll get analyzed further, but some of these intersections, might see on Main Street there, might see additional traffic. So if we need any, I don't know, retiming of lights or any other, we kind of have turn lanes going in now, but if there's any improvements, that'll come later as we do traffic study, right?
Yeah, we can, I would say, going into it, you should provide some sort of a traffic analysis, at least on what you think the trip generation is going to be. Sometimes for the residential stuff, we don't see it as much as we would for like commercial or high uses. They're not in and out all the time. I anticipate all of those roads are pretty well established and set up at the intersection of North and Main to handle the traffic that they're kind of showing here, especially with the additional connection, the nice connection that you also have south coming out of here. If you didn't have that, that'd maybe be a little bit more of a concern, but there's kind of a nice flow of traffic that could happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of different exit points depending on what direction you're going. And then access over to our Commerce Park with all the businesses there. So I think having people close to that is great too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more information, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think based on a lot of the conversations we've had, sorry, my voice tonight, in other neighborhoods has been the multiple connections and making sure that it's not being fed by one source during the entire process. It's important to the residents that are currently established there. And then, my other questions I think have all been answered. Go ahead, Alex.
I have more. That's okay, thank you. That town piece is perplexing me. Has the neighbor been notified and talked to yet?
No.
Okay. And then I guess from Aaron, we have the one shoestring I'm thinking about is the car fixie thing, right? So it comes through wetland. It doesn't come through a road. So does that road, who's going to own that road if they're in the town? Where do you think that easement's going to come through?
It's to be determined, but I think the idea is that it would probably be preferable for everybody to have the existing road come into the village and be improved to village standards. I think the idea is the light blue stormwater area would be a village-owned parcel that remains part of the town. The land to the south of that light blue is the Sarah Steele property, and she's indicated over the years she doesn't want to develop that.
Right.
So that would remain presumably in the town anyway. So that's where the connection would.
Have you talked to the town yet? No. Okay. And then other.
They will have to do a neighborhood meeting prior to submitting.
With the
that.
one neighbor.
This is the, all
Well, and all the neighbors in
preliminary.
Quarry Ridge.
Sure.
And everywhere else
Right.
too, so.
This is just concept.
No, fair. The other thought I was thinking through the layout, the pool being towards the front, that recreation area. Do you think that'll give confusion with some of the existing neighborhood versus the new neighborhood of who's has it, who doesn't have it? Are they going to be knocking on doors and kind of, oh, this is great, which it looks great, especially since it's right next to the park. You're going to get a lot of foot traffic going past it. It's your concept. You may want to consider putting it maybe towards the back, the other side, or whatever. But I understand there's probably going to be a monument sign there too, promoting the area. So it's a tough call, but just something to consider.
I appreciate the concern, and I did kind of go back and forth on it. It's just, source of pride. It's a reason you move into a neighborhood, and you kind of do want it to be like the thing you see when you come into your neighborhood. So I'm weighing those two things, and I think I'd rather, I just really like the idea of pulling into your neighborhood and seeing your pool and your pool house.
It's gonna be a good focal point for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do share your concerns, though. It is very close to other people's homes. So. And if I was a kid, I'd probably say, give it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Right. Well, thank you for coming, and we'll see you Monday, and I'm sure there'll be additional questions from the. Thank you. To the concept presentation by Near and Far Brewing. So Ed and Melissa are here.
Yeah.
Aaron, do you want to present or do you want me to?
I can share my screen if that's,
Well, before we start, I'm Melissa Ratcliffe. I just want to say that I'm here in my personal capacity as a business owner, not as an elected official. And I'm here with my business partner, Ed Ray.
Hey, everyone. Ed Ray, Melissa and I have been on this journey for about 2 years, and we are two of the partners for two investments. One, purchased the land, and then, of course, Near and Far Brewing Company. And then we got Brett with us, who's been on this journey with us through the madness and the patience. And so I appreciate you, Brett. And you want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm Brett Frizzell with Keller Builders. We've got, we're a design build commercial builder with office in Sun Prairie, but we're all across the state. And we've been working with Near and Far on this project for, I don't know, a few months now, and pulled together a lot of good details and concepts that we're looking forward to presenting tonight. And just jump into it unless you have any comments.
So I guess part of the reason for a brew pub is I'm a resident of Cottage Grove, and living here, I know that this is something that our community does not have. And one part of it too is that it's a community space. We envision it to be a place where people want to come and hang out, and not just drink. It's a brew pub because it's also a restaurant included in there. So it's more of a family space where neighbors can get together. Bring your dogs too. There'll be a dog area and a large patio, and also an event space that Brett can get into more about. But in Cottage Grove, we don't really have event spaces available with a restaurant connected. So looking at the space too along Cottage Grove Road, that there's not a lot of maybe development along Cottage Grove Road right now. So the area that we're hoping to put it, being on the bike path and near residential, but also near commercial, it's all feels like the right spot. And so we hope you agree, and looking forward to your feedback. And so with that.
Sure, I could jump into the details of the project. So like Melissa said, this is a really neat concept to put here in Cottage Grove, multi-use facility with restaurant, brewery, event space, tenant space. We think it's going to really pull a lot of people to a destination here in Cottage Grove, and excited for the project. Some quick overviews if you're looking at the site plan here. We opted to put the building on the east side of the site. Felt it would get the best way to utilize the space, both for parking for multiple businesses, as well as being able to utilize the patio space that ideally looks over something that's not another business behind it. We do show the green space for the dog area. We show 53 parking spaces to utilize access to all the tenants, both near and far, and the event center and the future tenant space. We have not engaged civil yet, so there's a lot of conceptual details here on this plan that are going to get trued up once we have civil engineering spun up on it. There's no stormwater, utility locates, all those things that are missing from this plan right now. We are looking at potentially moving that, we'll call it the southwest entry to the parking lot down to Limerick Drive. That's one of the ideas we're looking at, to maybe maximize parking a little more, especially when we have to understand if we have to put another stormwater facility on site too. Right. Aaron, you can jump to the next one. That said, I don't know which one you're going to show next. Floor plan? Let's go floor plan, yeah.
And with it being right next to the stormwater pond too, we wanted to maximize having a patio that kind of overlooks something, as opposed to just backs of houses, too.
Yeah. The patio was pretty strategically placed in that south side of the building. You get a lot of sun. It's tough to sit out towards the end of the day. And it gave some shelter from the businesses in the road and a way to both utilize the patio for restaurant folks, event space folks, and folks that are showing up with their dog and coming to the other business. Quick layout on the floor plan. So to the north area, you have your seating for all the restaurant bar area. Obviously patio to the southeast or east side, plan east. The middle section is our commercial kitchen, full service commercial kitchen, and the attached brewery, so about 1,000 square feet plus or minus for the brewing space as well, with on-site coolers, on-site brewing equipment. Stepping down further south on Plan South, we have an initial floor plan layout for potential event space to host everything from, I mean, you can tell them what do you want to host, but it could be
Up to 100
Yep.
people, event space. So small weddings, right, or just book clubs, anything in between.
I think, yeah, and just to elaborate on that, when we started this process, we went through some really bad names for the brew pub, mostly from this guy, and we landed on the name Near and Far for several different reasons, but all of them come down to, regardless where you're from, friends near and far, this is a place for you to gather space. It started off as a joke because I live in McFarland, Melissa lives in Cottage Grove, and so her and our brewer, or me and the brewer live in McFarland, so we were the far and she's the near, and then I was born in Africa, they were born in America, so I was the far and they were the near, and then again the concept of, again, friends far and near, this is a place for social gathering. And so as we went through this process, we worked with several different consultants and trying to instill, okay, what's our mission, what's our vision, what do we want this to represent? And part of that kept coming back to a sense of community and a sense of a collective body or a collective space for people. And so ultimately we decided that, hey, we should absolutely have an event space that the community can utilize. And so that was the thought process behind that. And the dog park, because I have 2 dogs and I love taking my dogs somewhere I can have a beer. So that was my selfish desire. But I think it's, I mean, you've got dogs as well, so.
And then there's a 2,000 square foot tenant space as well, to be leased out so that there can be another business like during the day, when it's not as busy at the brew pub either, because that commercial space is lacking in Cottage Grove too.
Yeah, the tenant space right now, we're showing as a white box, but we did lay out a couple toilet rooms to be pretty flexible as far as what the capacity could be for, is it a coffee shop, is it a retail shop, something of that nature. But that's remains to be seen, moving forward on what else goes in there. Couple things I want to point out is we put a lot of time and effort and thought into laying out the restaurant versus the brewery section, making the kitchen and the brewery accessible for the staff to easily service events from the backside with a vestibule that connects everything. We do have big bay windows so folks can look in and see the production of the brewing space. Centrally located washrooms to be able to serve all the elements of the building. On a Friday night when it's booming, there's an event and there's a restaurant full and everybody's having a good time. We wanted to be able to have those centrally accessible. And yeah, patio space along the east side. Next one would be elevations.
That's a really hilly area.
So this is our concept elevations for the building itself. You can see all the 4 directions on here. We've got some, again, concept materials, exterior materials placed, utilizing different varying pieces to help people understand which door they're supposed to be coming into, how to be steered towards the restaurant, how to best utilize the event space, how to best utilize the tenant space. Nothing's final on here, but they're concepts and ideas of where we think this could go. Okay, and the last one is some preliminary renderings of the building itself, just adding to the elevations, putting some 3D elements to the space and starting to help people visualize what all sides can look like.
That's right. So with that, any questions or thoughts?
Let Aaron go first.
Don't have too much to add. It looks great. I had a comment for Brett that I emailed earlier that they can take a look at. But as far as next steps for this project, it would need site plan approval and then also a conditional use permit for the bar function. Anything that's serving alcohol needs a conditional use permit. Yeah, otherwise I think it's looking really good.
Yeah, we'll encourage any feedback as well, so.
And because it is a family space, like we would not plan to be open till bar time at all. We would, I think, we were talking about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, like on Friday and Saturday nights, maybe midnight. So, put that out there.
Well, I'm gonna start. I say that I'm really excited, and I know a lot of people who have taken a look at tonight's agenda are also very excited about the potential for a brew pub. I guess you do have the dichotomy of being on Cottage Grove Road, so I really like that the facade is kind of pulled up towards that bike path, and that's what you see, and then the parking is more towards the side, but then you have the neighborhood in the back, and I guess I wanted to know your thoughts on the residential, commercial kind of the integration there and how residents might be impacted. I guess you just kind of answered it with the not being open until bar time, which is what, 2 a.m. now? I can't stay up that late, but yeah.
Yeah, we have no plans for staying up that late. Again, the kind of our brand, our identity is a community and a collective family space. By no means is this going to be your college bar. That's not in line with kind of what we envision for this. And so we think it will be a great addition to the community as well as to the residents. Whether you're biking or walking your dogs, being able to just stop by and not a 2 a.m. party spot. So.
And with that too, we tried to maximize the space for parking to make sure that we aren't disrupting the neighbors, but we would hope to have a good relationship with our neighbors too. And Limerick Drive there, it currently has the dance studio too, so it is a little bit of commercial already there. So and the road's gonna be end up going through as it was planned. So it's gonna be a little bit more traffic for those people who are on the dead end currently. But we would work with them to address concerns that they may have to knowing that they're our neighbors, and we want everyone to feel comfortable and be happy with us being there.
So going back to, you're talking a lot about being right on the bike path and, walking and stuff like that. Looking at the site plan, and I think it would be awesome if there was something off the bike path that went maybe straight to your front door so people don't have to walk through the parking lot to
Sure.
get
Yes.
inside,
We-
which is like a huge problem in a lot of places
Yeah,
around town.
We talked about that back and forth. Still an option, and, you know, access to the patio, to the green space. We've obviously moved the dog area multiple times to try and help identify where the best place for that is, how people should be accessing both from car, from bike. So there's a few other things we're still developing, and that's one we can definitely consider.
And like where we put the bike racks too, like that'll help determine for people like where they should put their bikes for accessing. Because we don't want people going on the grass either and just accessing the patio, because then we might not know that they're there for service either. So those are things that we're still working out too, but thank you. It's good to know that we're on the same wavelength.
Rock, paper, scissors.
You gotta go rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I'm really disappointed, but I'm being sarcastic. But
I would
what
never have
happened?
expected that.
I know.
from
What
you.
happened to the rooftop patio?
I know.
That was like so I was going through the notes. I'm like, I knew there was a rooftop patio. So I found out you were here in January. The drawing has it. I was like, yes. I understand it though, but I guess
Yeah, I can
cost,
speak to that a little
design,
bit.
all that other type of stuff.
It was a combination of a couple of different things, cost being a driver for it. As I spoke to earlier, part of our identity was, again, a place for all. And with a rooftop patio, outside of the additional cost that comes with that, we have to talk about accessibility. And part of accessibility is, well, we can't say we're an inclusive place for all if we don't supply elevators and everything for individuals in wheelchairs. And so, I mean, there's an option to go with a smaller footprint and offer, I think, different services or some. We just didn't feel comfortable going with that approach. So ultimately, through kind of advice from a collective of individuals, we opted to go with the first level patio for that purpose.
I think the outside seating more than makes up for it, but I still wanted to had to give that to you.
It's still there for us too, like,
Yeah,
but it's okay. It'll be great.
it will be. In the drawing, again, it's still, I guess there's still concepts going on there. You know, there's going to be a lot of stuff in and out. I don't see really a delivery door. This is really for you. It's just a comment, something to think about. I mean, we've seen a lot of these places, large garage doors, that type of stuff. You're pretty much surrounding the entire building, except for the one south side, sort of right there, with parking, which is good. However, deliveries could be difficult, especially if you have to change one of your cylinders out, you know, one of the tanks or something like that. That may be
Brewery
difficult.
asks that
So.
question every single time. Where's delivery?
Okay.
Where's delivery? Where's delivery?
So if you look by the, is that the south side? There's two sets of doors right past the dog park area, the dog area.
The vestibule right there, the double
Yes.
doors, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's the entry into, like, with all the grain for the brew.
So they'll have to go around the corner and, yeah,
The
yeah,
truck would park in the, like that side, yeah,
yeah.
the south side.
Just something to think about. It's obviously, it's a workflow, just something I noticed.
Exactly.
Rooftop, I had HVAC systems, rooftop. Are they gonna be on the roof? Or are they gonna be on the ground? Do we need to add screening or anything like that, or has that been?
Yeah, right now we're planning a rooftop with parapet.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I guess for the village, who builds the road? There's work going on there right now, looks like. Are we building the road? Is somebody building the road?
Sewer interceptor project.
That's the sewer project. Okay, so do we build the road too? Is that already,
It would
does that
be-
fit their timeline? I don't know what's going on with the road.
So the Hamburgs own this property and the rest of the frontage along Cottage Grove Road, and then they have some future residential lots behind. So like any development, they would build the roads. I don't know if
And that's
Josh
been-
has anything to add
That's
to
all
that.
been platted and approved quite a few years ago. That,
Long
all
time.
that.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure who was built.
Yeah,
because
so it
yeah.
would be the Hamburger, the developer of the site, to build all of that road.
Okay.
We're just putting in the sewer as part of the initial project.
Yeah.
That connects it all the way down to Vilas.
Okay. Still missed the rooftop. No. Glad to see it. Thanks.
Other comments or questions?
I would just add that I'm also glad to see this. This is a corridor right in the middle of town, closer to my house than many other establishments, so that is very exciting. And right on our bike path, now we're going to be fully north-south and east-west with bicycle paths, so I'm really excited that people have a place to go along, add it to all the places that you can go along this corridor. So I think this is an area that, is really exciting to see developed. So I'm excited to continue see it go through the process and the next steps. So happy to see you back.
I'm excited for Cottage Grove. So I live in McFarland, and I would say, since getting to know Melissa and kind of going about this project, I probably find myself in Cottage Grove more than McFarland these days. And I think this is a good community for it. I like the location, and so looking to make this our home and grow collectively. So thank you all.
The one thing I'll just quickly add is I appreciate you all thinking about that intentionality between, as Jared was mentioning, how to get there, so it's not going through the parking lot, but also the bike paths as well, being right in there, having a spot for those bikes in there. So I appreciate you thinking about that, and I look forward to seeing how that all comes together.
Maybe we'll get some, dog carrier place, have, dog carriers on bikes. But that's another step down the road.
One thing, this is really minor, but something I want to point out is this was at one of Ed's non-negotiables was putting a tapped water receptacle out to the dog park area too. So common water fed to the area for the dogs. So I don't know. There's a lot of thought we've put into this over the last few weeks and months, and there's still a long way to go on getting everything dialed in, but we think we've got a good step forward.
I think questions that others will have are the timeline. Do you have, what's your timeline? When are you opening?
Depends who you ask. If you ask me, I would say I wanted to be opening last year.
Yeah.
I think part of this process there was contingencies. The interceptor was one of the pieces we had to wait on. And so I think from a plan perspective, we're almost there. The next step for us would be the civil engineering and then come in for the collective approvals. But I think.
Yeah. Oh, is it me?
Oh, I was just going to say, I would hope that we could break ground in spring and be open by the end of the year, next year.
Yeah,
That's just how long the process takes.
Yeah, just to give a little more detail to that. So spinning up civil, as far as the meat and potatoes of the building itself, we're going to dial in all the interior finishes, exterior finishes, making sure we're aligned with everything, all the municipal requirements and those type of details. But to echo what Melissa said, ideally breaking ground once frost is out, and 6 to 8 month build. So somewhere towards the end of the year next year.
And we're going to have really good food. We spend a lot of time working with a chef for food because brew pubs never have good food, in my opinion. And I'm a foodie, so.
Sorry, I have one more quick question. Your comment about the outdoor water feature reminded me, where do you envision the entrance to the fenced dog area?
Yeah, so we were ideally away from the patio, southwest, like kind of where those two trees are, is accessible from that edge, not to spill into the existing patio. There is got to be some delineation and some separation for that. That's why you see that a little more on the event space, the dog area, and the patio itself is why you see that concrete span between the two areas. We want to create a little bit of divisor too for anybody that's booked an event that doesn't want to have people populating their event from the backside. We don't want to have folks flowing back and forth and be able to keep the dogs, accessible and yet separated as well. So there is a lot of purpose in how the patio has got some separation there, and ideas of potential little fencing and things of that to delineate those spaces.
So we also want everybody to feel comfortable there too, and keep their pets safe.
All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we will move on to discuss. This is just feedback.
Yes, this is something we started talking about at the last meeting, and then some of these issues fed into the field trip that I think most of us went on over to Grandview Commons to look at how some of these things play out in real space. So one of the first things here was adding or permitting residential alleys, currently not allowed in the village. So we'd be looking to permit those in residential districts. We're envisioning that these would be privately owned and maintained by an HOA, not public. We talked with Nick and April from the fire department yesterday. Their main concern was just making sure they're wide enough to get their equipment through and ensuring that no one's trying to park in the alley and blocking up some of the space. But otherwise, I think we can make that work. The street widths. So currently, the ordinance describes a range of potential widths just of the overall pavement, but doesn't really break down, the size of the components within that space. So we'd be looking to take the approach of defining the size of the components as opposed to the overall width. We also talked with fire department about this, and they were generally okay with the 10-foot lanes. Their only concern was, as you can see on the minor streets, we're proposing 7 to 8 foot for parking. They would like to see the 8 just because larger trucks would be wider and block some of the drive lane. We'd also like to keep continuing this discussion with Public Works and Strand to get their takes on some of these things too. Sidewalk width, most of the new sidewalks that are built in the village are already 5 feet, but we're just wanting to codify that's what we want. Multi-use paths, we just want to verify that that's something we can request in lieu of a sidewalk. That's already happening in a lot of neighborhoods over in West Town along Damascus and areas like that, but there's really nothing in the ordinance about it right now. Curb radii, so that's how big the radius of the curb is around different intersections. Right now, that's not really defined by our ordinance. When the radius is smaller, that makes the crossing distance shorter, so a little bit safer and less time for people to cross. It also tends to slow people down a little bit, as opposed to a wider turn radius. Just looks like something you can take at a faster speed. So again, talking to the fire department about this, and they were also okay with this. Again, we just want to have Strand run some analysis with their turning radius of their vehicles, and they're getting a new ladder truck, so we might want to run it with that vehicle. So that may impact if there's parking allowed or how close parking can get to the corner and things like that. That was also a concern that Kyla had with the snowplows and things like that. The setbacks, I'm just proposing taking that out because that's kind of redundant because the zoning already deals with all of that. So yeah, this is just another iteration of what we started talking about, looking for a little bit more feedback or any questions you might have before we take the next step with some of the street widths and things like that to finalize that language. Then we would come back, there have to be a public hearing and all that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you said something. I'm reading through I'm thinking about the alleyways in the beginning, and so in blue it says privately owned and maintained alleys may be permitted in residential districts. So in your narrative, you were just talking. You mentioned HOA, right? And so I grew up just outside of Philadelphia. We had row homes, now they call them townhomes, and there was no HOA, right? They didn't know how to spell it where I grew up. So the owner just shoveled it or didn't shovel it or whatever, and it was always the fun feud. So just thinking about the cost, we're trying to reduce cost of ownership, reduce cost of living, trying to reduce those extra things. Is it your intent that language, it will be HOA maintained? Someone has to do it regardless, or is there a mechanism that you're saying, hey, this alleyway it's privately owned, the owner still has to, they're responsible for it, but it's kind of a right of way, like a sidewalk, right? Like there's no HOA that covers my sidewalk, but I have to shovel it and clear it for the safety of the neighborhood. What's the language is a little vague because you said HOA, it doesn't say HOA, but what's your thoughts through that?
I think it's definitely better if it's an HOA, then it definitely gets done and you don't have the one person in the middle blocking the alley when they're not clearing it. So in the examples that I've seen in the area where they are private, it is an HOA thing. There are also examples where they're public. I know Kyla doesn't want that. Nobody really wants us to be plowing alleys, but no, I think that's a good point, and we could add HOA language in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's got to be just sort of a mechanism for it. I mean, I think it's something to consider, right? Because we were trying to help reduce costs, and just thinking about all the work that the village has been doing over the years. It's another thing, I think the group that we talked to earlier today, an HOA for their pool and stuff. A lot of the apartment buildings have those amenities. They just sort of bake it into the rent, right? It's there, but they call it rent. It's kind of one of the items in there. So anything we do to help, and if the owner's capable, they should just take care of it. I don't know, but
That's a good point. We can
yeah, I don't know.
put a little more thought into that for next time.
Nothing on anything else. Thanks.
I do have one quick clarifying question. Regarding the multi-use paths, we state that the changes shall be dedicated to the village. I just want to clarify exactly what that means in there. Does that mean that if it's in lieu of a sidewalk, the village is in charge of maintaining that, like snow removal and other things, or is that still falling on the homeowner?
So right now, the multi-use paths that are in the village are maintained by, I don't know if it's Sean's guys that are plowing those or Public Works, but yeah, those are done publicly, whereas the sidewalks are still done by the individual property owners.
So then, kind of the follow-up question is that still something that our department would be willing to continue to maintain, or is this one of those things that we need to build in some wiggle room in there? Because when it says dedicated to, means I can make the assumption that that means that the village will be maintaining that from here on out whenever we do that.
Right, it will be in the right of way, right? You'll reconstruct it someday, just like you would a sidewalk if it was damaged. And then the snow removal side is kind of a separate thing. I don't know, Rick, if you've seen ordinances where they've ever kind of listed snow removal and when and where they do it and where they don't.
Yeah, so typically sidewalks, like snow removal is the property owner. With the multi-use path, like I've seen ordinances basically saying if it's 5 feet or less, it's the property owner. If it's 5 feet or more, the village is responsible for it. Just because sidewalks, it's sort of a standard item that people do, but if it's a multi-use path that's bigger, it's more area for snow removal. So I've seen a delineation like that typically.
So in that text, you're saying that the multi-use paths are 10 feet wide, unless otherwise approved. So there's a catch-all, but you're generally pointing to 10 feet. And I think is that what's in front of Glacial Drumlin? Is that 10 feet or is that 8? Feels like 8.
I don't know for sure. Typically path you'll see now is 10. The minimum used to be 8, but recently they've kind of shift guidance to 10 with kind of a max side of 12 that you'll see in places. I would say holistically, especially in this county, 10 is a pretty common number for the path. But you will see some paths that are older that are 8 feet wide. That used to be something in the past.
I think the path by my house is 8, but it is a lot to remove the snow on it. I've done it. It takes at least 6 passes with my snow blower to do it. The other comment that I had was it was very helpful to go on that field trip and visualizing some of these things that we're talking about here, because it's one thing to see it on paper, but I think it was really helpful, so I'm really glad that we did that.
Yeah, especially when it came to the differing street widths and the traffic calming that's associated with them. I think that's useful in new neighborhoods to keep the drag racing to a minimum. And then I do like the alleys too. And having kind of the green space in the front is a nice look. Yeah,
We'll have to start planning an annual plan commission field trip.
you can go on a different neighborhood every year.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, any other comments?
Well, we can reciprocate that too. And, you know, some of our stuff that we've done would be interesting to have some other people come out so we can share feedback. But
Yeah,
it's-
we actually excuse me, had a group from Little Rock, Arkansas that came up about a month or so ago. They were spent one day in Madison and then a half day here and a half day in Sun Prairie. So
All right, should we move on? Can discuss the village board's direction to reconsider zoning all the parcels listed there from planned business to central business. Again, feedback only.
yeah, so this started with a memo from Chris over there, and you can join us if you want.
Yeah, Chris, you're welcome to have a seat at the front.
You put your memo in the packet, so you're legit. Basically, just looking at the parcels over on the northeast corner of N and BB. The village owns the parcel on the corner, and the two sort of light industrial buildings. We're seeking the purchase of the others to create one contiguous redevelopment site. The purpose of the rezoning would be to ensure that any parcels that we don't acquire, if they do redevelop, would redevelop as something compatible with what the village wants to do on their parcels. This would be consistent with the comp plan. Basically, just getting feedback at this point. The next step would be to reach out to the property owners and explain why we'd be doing this. And then we would draft up the language and bring it in with a public hearing and all that. But Chris, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to elaborate on.
Not really too much. Just one of the things that I hear a lot as a village trustee, and I know it's something that like the chamber's identified as well, is a lack of a dedicated downtown area. So this is just kind of a first step to starting that process, just so that we have an area in the village that's going to be dedicated to something like that, so we can, you know, we're being proactive instead of waiting until we get all these parcels purchased and then doing something then.
Yeah, this was originally presented by Chris at the village board. Now it's coming to plan commission, so we've seen it and given our opinions on it. But yeah, if this is a priority of the village board to kind of redevelop and work on this area, it's the first step. Thoughts from the non-board members?
I love it. Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. I think it's good to get ahead of, you know, any type of sales or whatever that would be going on, and just, yeah, have it be zoned in a way that's going to make it easier to turn it into a reasonable downtown.
Who owns it all now? Is it a mix? We own some of it, and it's
We own
privately
three
owned?
of them, and then there are private homeowners owning the rest.
So is the intent that the village will own all of it, or eventually it'll be turned out, be kind of like the business park? It's going to be sold, and then a developer would build the downtown feel.
To my,
Yeah, if
It's,
Or
want to be a little sensitive because of potential negotiations, but the village is trying to acquire all properties in that corner.
what would typically happen in that scenario, if the municipality puts a chunk of land together, they would put out an RFP to developers, and they would submit proposals for what they would do with the land, and we could pick one to sell the land to.
Yeah, we want to decide what happens with that before we sell the land, not sell the land and let someone else do whatever they want with it. And I think it's also important to say that there is one parcel in here that is, most of it's in a TID, but there's one parcel that's not in a TID. So we can acquire most of it ourselves. The other one would be a little trickier.
So are we becoming developers? I think we got to be careful, right? We build a plan. This is the struggle we do all the time. This is a struggle on the board. It's a struggle for planning commission too. There's a comprehensive plan. This is the ideas of what we want to grow that steers developers, residential, commercial, industry, otherwise. But I think we also want to be careful that we're the government, I guess, and we're not. Are we in the developing business then? How does
I would
that?
say we are trying to facilitate development that we desire at a key location.
And I think it's unique in that the village
Yeah.
board will have a lot more control over what goes there, what it looks like.
I think the intent is to have a little more control over aesthetics and what it looks like. We're not going to say this has to be a Taco Bell and apartments and you need a Cinnabon in there too or something like that. That's not what we're going to do.
I mean, the tough part with the industrial park, like where we own that land, like we bought it way back when, pennies on the dollar for what it's worth today. And a lot of the negotiations got held up in like the price of the dirt, right? We know Cottage Grove, the price of the dirt is super expensive. This area is going to be, it's already developed. We're acquiring the property at the value we're getting it at now. So there's a lot of development that wanted to come in to up at the north end there. And, you know, I was like, let's just give them the land because we'll reap the benefits of the industry. We've already reaped, you know, the land, just sell it for what we paid for it, not the current value. So just with caution, I think it's good. It's good, right? I mean, we want to develop. I think there's a lot of, you know, I've heard things, nothing formal, you know, village halls and we're building, it needs some attention and all these other types of ideas. And I think it's good to have that plan, but I think it's also good to be very transparent as to what you're trying to do, just so we don't get stuck as like a developer in competition. And I think that's the other piece. We don't want to be in competition with the developers. There's that very fine line with the different companies. And I had challenges with and I'll even mention it. Ruta Bush, I think, was helping us with the property up there. However, they had beautiful property that was built out on Femerite or somewhere, just empty vacant. So I'm just like, I know they're going to take people over there with properties ready to go. You can move in within 30 days or you can build within 24 months, right? So it all looks really good, but just a little bit of caution. It's also good to see that it's part of that tax district too. So it really kind of lends itself to what you're trying to do. So it's a tough balance. So I appreciate what you're trying to work through here. Thanks.
And I think I was, as what Renee said at the meeting as well, is what we would like to see is something replicating what Old Town looks like, kind of more of a small town feel of building versus, you know, a setback building with a big parking lot in front.
And that's why rezoning to central business.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention the whole parking element in there as well, so you beat me to it, but I really do like that because it has such a busy intersection too. So controlling that flow a little bit for parking, having that design a little bit more, it also helps with the safety element of that intersection, knowing that we also have kids crossing at the intersection as well. So like really thinking through all those elements down the road, I think it makes sense to move forward that way, to go with the vision, but also for other elements as well.
And the bank across the street is zoned central business as well. So if our intent is to sort of redevelop that whole intersection, at some point that intersection, we're gonna have to do something about it to make it easier to walk across, so.
Future discussion. Any other comments? Future agenda items.
So we'll continue with the two ordinance items that were on the agenda tonight. I guess we'll see if Newman Homes or the Brew Pub are ready for next month. I have some drawing to do to get to that point. And I did hear from Toby's Auto again. We heard from them back in the summer. They might be ready to do something in December. So.
Otherwise, number 11.
Motion to adjourn?
And I'll second.
It's a motion and a second, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.